Hey y'all. Okay, so I started making this video and then I'm like looking at my hair and I'm like, what is happening? It was so cute this morning and now, I don't know, it's just gone crazy. Anyways, so I'm coming at you today because I want to talk about something that's super, super important, and it is stress. And I'm doing this because Stress Awareness Day is coming up, and I think it's a really important day that not enough people are aware of. But I want to talk to you about stress that's been in my life and how you might relate and how I solved this. And yeah, I mean, stress still comes and goes in my life, but for the most part, I've really learned to manage it pretty well. But the first trick was to identify the stress. So I'll tell you a story. Almost a year ago now, I started to have these really crazy chest pains, and I actually ended up, so let me take a step back. I had these pains in my chest for weeks and weeks, and they were getting worse and worse and worse and really starting to kind of be debilitating. And I was at a Go Red for Women luncheon, which is for the Heart Association. It's a fundraising event for the Heart Association. But I was sitting there and we were at the lunch, and a speaker got on stage and she started talking about the symptoms of a woman having a heart attack. And the symptoms are these dull pains in their chest and kind of up here, and then numbness in their arm. And so it was not your typical sharp pain that you would think of that we've all been taught as a heart attack. It's something totally different in women. And I freaked out. I literally stood up in the middle of the lunch and I walked out and I called my mom in tears and I said, "You need to take me to the hospital. I think I might be having a heart attack." And she did. She took me. First, I went to a emergency kind of urgent care place, and they actually had me sit in the waiting room for half an hour, even when I told them I thought I was having a heart attack. Not very good service, mind you. But anyways, I went in, and when they finally called me back, I told the nurse that I thought I might be having a heart attack, and he turned white and he was like, "Why are you still sitting here?" And I said, "Because your office staff told me to sit here." So anyways, he freaked out and he rushed me back and he hooked me up to an EKG machine. And thank God I was not actually having a heart attack, but there was definitely something wrong that's going on. And so they sent me down to the ER. And I told them that I thought I may have been having a heart attack or I was having chest pains. So they rushed me back and did the normal thing and hooked me up to all the machines. And again, I wasn't having a heart attack, but there was definitely something wrong and they couldn't figure out what it was. So they put me in the waiting room and I sat there for 12 to 13 hours, which sucked royally. But at least I knew I wasn't actively dying, because they probably wouldn't have put me in the waiting room if I was actively dying. So that was kind of a plus. But they finally brought me back and they couldn't figure out what was going on with me. They'd run a bunch of tests and done x-rays and all kinds of things, and the only thing they could come up with was that it was some type of inflammation. At that point, I was having major chest pains where I was rolling over in pain. My left arm had gone completely numb to the point where I could hardly feel it or move it or anything. And my heart rate was drastically going up every single time the pain was coming. And they couldn't figure out what was going on. So finally they gave me some anti-inflammatory medication, which numbed the pain. It made the pain go away, except for I had one little hot spot back here. It was kind of weird where all the pain was going in these two little spots. So it was really weird. And I've told this story really fast. But what happened was that I left the ER not knowing what had happened to me. I left. They didn't know. They were like, "You're not actively dying, so you're okay." So they discharged me. But they couldn't tell me what was going on. And over a couple days, so I caught the flu while I was sitting in the waiting room and got really, really sick for the next few days after that. And I just stayed in bed and I was dark and sad and broken and miserable and whole. What I realized though was I had gone through the hardest part of my life I had ever gone through. I had this really traumatic situation happen about 6 months prior to that, and I didn't actually have time to go through the coping process of it because work was so demanding that I just had to keep moving. I was a single mom. I was responsible for this whole team and this whole staff and all these events, and had a lot of pressure on my back, and I never got to cope with this life-changing, hugely dramatic thing that had happened to me. And so going through this experience of getting the pain in my chest and then going to the hospital and then getting super sick and then coming out of that what I realized was that I was having a long-term panic attack. I was overwhelmed, and this was my body telling me, you're overstressed, you're overstressed, you're overstressed, you're overstressed, you need to do something about it. And so finally I stopped and I listened to what my body was telling me. And I made some of the biggest changes of my life after that. I figured out that I was going to start my own business and that I was going to actually follow my passion, and I was going to remove myself from an environment that was toxic for me, and I was going to change how I ate and how I exercised and how I focused my energy and how I cared for myself. And I changed all of that in about a 4-month period. And I can tell you now, I have never felt better in my entire life. I've never felt healthier. I've never felt more passionate about life. I've never felt less stress. And it's been so game-changing for me that it is so important for me that you learn this. Here's the thing. You need to listen to what your body is telling you. Your body is telling you whether or not you're stressed. Your body is telling you what stresses you and what doesn't. And if you start listening to those things, if it's saying this is uncomfortable, this isn't working, I don't like this, you need to make those changes, because that stress, whether you realize it or not, is physically killing you, because that's what was happening to me. And it wasn't until I actually left those situations and went through the coping process of the traumatic thing that had happened to me that I realized just how stressed I was and just how damaging it was to my body. So you have to pull yourself out of those situations, but the trick is to identify those situations first. So my challenge to you today, in honor of Stress Awareness Day, is write down the things that are stressing you out and start thinking about ways that you can change those situations, how you can remove those stressors from your life so that you can allow yourself to be more free, to allow yourself to breathe and be happy and start moving towards what your purpose is, what you're passionate about, and creating a life that you love, that you want to actually live. Let me know how I can help you. Let me know if I can help you deep dive into finding stress in your life a little bit more and how to remove those things. There are tons of resources and tools on my website if you ever want to know about removing stress. So it's nikalori.com. You can always go there, look through my blog. There's tons of resources there. But as always, reach out to me, email me, comment below, IM me, DM me, whatever it is you need to do to get in touch and tell me how I can support you. I'm here for you. You have so much to provide to this world, so it's important that we get you healthy and happy and to a point where you can do that. But I love you guys. I'm here for you. Talk to you soon.